This lesson is an introduction to the Bible Doctrine of Time by Dr. John Penn, and it's one of the courses in his LAMP Theological Institute. So we'll cover this introduction very briefly. Of course, this is the book. The PDF is available. I'll place that in the description. You can go to baptistlamp.org. You'll find that there free of charge. Download it. First of all, Arthur Pink in 1972 said, "Man is notoriously a creature of extremes, and nowhere is that fact more evident than in the attitude taken by different ones to this particular subject." Speaking of Bible interpretation and study, some affirm the Bible is written in such simple language that it calls for no explaining. A far greater number have suffered the papist to persuade them. I think that's referring to the historic legacy of popes and high-ranking religious leaders, to persuade them that its contents are so far above the grasp of the natural intellect, its subject so profound and exalted, its language so abstruse and ambiguous that the common man is quite incapable of understanding it by his own efforts. So that definitely would assure job security if you were the guru upon which all understanding co-depended, but that's not the case. Since the commoner must work between the extremes and against his own propensity to simply go along, then this hermeneutic is intended to afford any commoner, any plowboy, a product of the repeatable process of achieving for themselves a sound knowledge of the Scriptures that will find them well equipped to determine the correct use of the Bible in theology and in personal life. And that last quote is from Rom 1970. One can nevertheless receive great hope from the Scriptures as God has intended them for our learning, that we through patience and comfort of the Scriptures might have hope. And it certainly can appear so convoluted and so extreme, and it's either this or that so often that we might not find certainty in anything. Consequently, then, this message is provided as a word for learning patience as a source of comfort, in order that the rise of skepticism, diligently noticing God's word, lest any one of us fail of the grace of God, that is, allow a root of bitterness to spring up and so trouble us as to become defiled by it. And we've seen people fall away. They just give up, throw up their hands. They don't want to get between the antagonism that exists in the either or and the different camps that form. So at LAMP Theological Institute, we're encouraged to see from the point of view from where no contradiction appears, take a holistic approach, include the information we have in the Bible, and include all of it to see if we can establish an outcome greater than the sum of its parts. And that's what this introduction to the Bible Doctrine of Time is all about. The attention of the reader is turned toward the beloved passages, 2 Peter 3:8. Beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that one day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as one day. Psalm 90, which was actually written by Moses, states, for 1,000 years and thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. That's from the King James Version. Recalling the trustworthiness of God, the reader can be assured that in no flummox has the great God of the Bible abandoned us, nor has he left it up to us to figure out everything, rather only that we calculate the number, because that's what we're speaking about when we talk about time, and then we hear the very severe banter, sometimes to the point of people disassociating over the age of the earth. But we notice carefully that there's not a distinction between chronological age, geological age, and then we don't notice that the geological record is according to chronology, and the geological age doesn't contradict either. And of the three, they are all capable of being known and expressed in the Scriptures, and quite credibly noticed in a ratio. So an often discussed reality of growth and decay rates is expressed in a very elemental but useful mathematical. I gave the Strong's number for mathematical. And you can read this if you're in any kind of mathematics, let's say even elementary algebra, which I found that to be quite a difficult course. I was struck by how difficult it was when you leave out the small parts, and it can really be difficult if you just move on. But these are the equations and things that are used. The number E, which if you've we remember, we have to go back to when we were in school and remember E was a number, like the letter pi is a number. And this is part of that. But this is not the math class. Brother Penn has expressed it in a very understandable way, very much, let's say, third grade arithmetic level for such a profound observation that he's made. Here's how he calculated the ratio, that is 1 day to 1,000 years, 1,000 years to a day. Research assistant, Dr. Eddie Johnson, and myself, we were tasked to carry out this research. We enjoyed it because he told us there's a formula in the Bible if someone can find it. So he sent us searching for a formula. And so he had us begin with a 6 to 20,000 year chronological young Earth range. And notice the delta, the difference of 14,000 years. That's how large that disparity is. So we divided 14,000 years in half to get 7,000 years. And then he told us to begin calculating according to 250-year increments. So next we began with the 6,000 years and proceeded toward the 7,000 years in the 250-year increments. So we added the two so that the 24-hour day night period is totaled. So we started with approximately 6,250 years. So our very first number took 6,000 and added the 250 as we would approach 7,000. And then it was a 12-hour day. And he reminded us that Jesus himself said there's 12 hours in the day. So we doubled it, 6,250 years at 12-hour night. And that gave us 12,500 years at a 24 hours per total day. Now, he told us to multiply the 12,500 years because the inverse relationship between growth and decay rates is self-evident. You can even study the equations for that. But also he noticed from his 1960-something math book that the inverse relationship between multiplication is division and the inverse relationship between division is multiplication. So the same relationship existed between multiplication and division as it did and is noticed in decay and growth rates. So he said multiply the 12,500 years by a 360-day year. It gave us 4.5 million days. And then we multiplied that by 1,000 years, gave us 4.5 billion years. Now that's the amount of decay. Dr. Al Mohler preached a message, a lecture, I suppose, but he didn't express it quantitatively, but he did describe this very thing. He was saying, why is it that the earth appears so old? And he said, because of the severity of sin. Well, Dr. Penn noticed and quantified that severity and took Bible numbers and demonstrated how severe the decay rate is and how much decay has accrued. So that's why we can see where apparent contradiction is not there when we notice chronologically is one thing. But we do know things decay faster than the years in which the decay rate accelerated. As one scientist in our class mentioned, for example, even animals, like for example, our pet dog might die age 7 years per 1 year of our lifetime. So it's something that's obvious and self-evident, but it can be lost if we begin to become so skewed in our approach that we omit something or we don't take the time, as he taught us, to listen so that we might understand the other view first before we seek to be understood. So we went on and noticed this demonstrates the 1 day to 1,000 years ratio. Now to demonstrate the 1,000 year to 1 day ratio, simply take the 4.5 and multiply it by 1,000 days, which equals approximately 2.78 360-day years. So 4.5 times approximately 2.78 equals 12.5 billion years. Now that's how much decays in the universe. So you can notice that they knew then, thousands of years ago, what we only now know by the technology that resulted from the fields of science like calculus, physics, and chemistry, which resulted from the field of theology, which originated in the scriptures. So now we have this 2.78, and we can also notice the number E, which is 2.718281828459045, and that's as much as I remembered that. But how it compares to 2.78, which we used integers, and we used third grade arithmetic. So this is just an introduction, but these are the type of lessons we'll be formatting. And with the book and reading it and then going through these lessons, it will be very helpful as you, in this LAMP Theological Institute, you study these things, you learn these things, and then they become more self-evident. So have a blessed day and enjoy this lesson.